You're listening to The Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode of The Practical Wealth Show. And so today we're going to talk about, well, we always talk about money, but business, real estate. And I have a great guest for you today. I have Mr. Chris Craddock. And let me tell you about Chris. Chris is a nationally certified life coach in leadership and one of the top real estate professionals in the world, closing 30 to 65 deals a month. Chris is the host of the Uncommon Real Estate podcast. He's a realtor, an entrepreneur who runs multiple successful businesses in the DC metro area, Richmond, DC metro area. Chris and his company is consistently bringing close to 10 million in revenue year after year. His team, the Redux Group, sold just over 160 million in volume in 2020. Chris is married. So there's a congratulations. I've been married 23, right? 21 years. He's the proud father of 6. This is why he works so hard. Okay. Children. Right? And so I got 3 daughters. So that's why I'm out here busting my butt. So Chris, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So tell him what I didn't tell him. Tell him, what the Redux Group is, and then let's get into showing the people how to make some money here.
Yeah, sure. So I've got 11 businesses all in the real estate space. It started with, I was flipping properties, and then started building a retail team. And then I know the word vertical integration is what we really worked on, having a lot of different verticals so that you can get paid just continue to get paid in the same space a number of different times. And so, have everything from title to insurance to construction, something called Legal Shield, which I think is really, really cool for investors. There's just a number of different places, flipping, real estate, rental portfolio. So anyway, there's just a number of different places where I am getting paid a number of times in the same space, right? So for me, that's really what I'm working through, is how do you work smarter and build a better mousetrap.
So how do you work smarter, and how do you build a better mousetrap? Let's start with that.
Well, here's one. I mean, if you can get paid multiple times for the same transaction, I think that's really, really great, right? Own the title company, own the insurance company, own the construction company. So all of these different pieces. Now you got to do a really good job. You got to make sure that your clients are getting massive value from you. But that's one of those keys there. And then, what I coach on is the idea that if you're already, I think a lot of people will pay, if you're an investor, you'll pay for seller leads, you'll pay to get access to people off market. Well, what happens with those people that you're paying for, or those people that, if they're not willing to sell below market, what happens with it? And so what we've done is we created a program where we teach you how to take those leads where people want to sell, but maybe they don't want to sell under market. They want full retail value for it. Mm-hmm. And how do you monetize those leads? And so that's what we're teaching people how to do. So if people are paying to get access to sellers that really want to sell, and a lot of them under market, how do we monetize the leads so that we are, so that you can zero base your marketing, so that you can have them paid, have all of your marketing paid for.
And so when you say that, you're in that sentence, you're talking to Joe investor that's lead generating to find leads to acquire properties to either fix and flip or to rehab and keep. That's what you mean when you say a lead. Just to be clear. Exactly. Okay. Because first I was thinking you were meant realtors. I know realtors that buy leads and that kind of stuff, but that's not what you're talking about. And so can you elaborate on zero costing your leads? Maybe one or two tips that you teach in your coaching.
Yeah. So there's a company called realestateinvestor.com. And if you're looking for a way to get marketing, like they've got a direct mail service done for you service, and tell them if you reach out to them, use my name, and they'll give you a pretty massive discount on it. And they'll send out direct mail for you to 2 lists of people that are likely to sell under market, likely to be distressed. And so it's a done for you service. It's not cheap, but It's completely, in a box service.
Mhm.
And then you'll get a bunch of people that are calling. Well, some of those people are going to call and will be willing to sell their house at 65 cents on the dollar.
Mhm.
Some of those people are going to call and they're going to want 99 cents on the dollar. At 99 cents on the dollar, there's not money to be made for that because you just can't. So how do you zero base it? What we teach in our program, REI Revive, we teach people how to partner with a real estate professional, real estate agent who will go out and turn those leads that aren't going to sell below market into listings and give you a referral fee for the listings, the money that they bring in for those deals that want to sell at close to retail value.
Interesting. So the first thing that comes to mind is that to do that and be in compliance, should they have their real estate license?
They should get the real estate license or get somebody in their organization to get a real estate license. And frankly, if you look across the country, everybody's getting licensed or requiring licensure for sort of different real estate investments.
Yeah.
So all of the Success Leaves Clues and all of the major real estate organizations, all the big flippers or wholesalers, they're either licensed or they have somebody licensed in their organization. And as you become a real estate professional, as you become somebody that in your world is the real estate guy or girl, people are going to come and talk to you about real estate, even when they're going to buy their own property. And literally, if you have a license, you don't have to be buying or selling property. You can just literally give somebody else, connect them with somebody, and you're going to make tens of thousands of dollars every year in referral fees just by connecting your friends and family to somebody that will.
See, it's funny you say that. This is me talking because I had been thinking about that because most realtors can't market their way out of a paper bag. I can generate leads, but I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. But I can, because I holistic, planning. And so real estate, I call it I was speaking at a mortgage retreat for mortgage brokers, high-level mortgage people. And I was telling them about the idea of what I call a three-sided balance sheet, right? Which is you got an asset, you got a liability side, and real estate is like both, right? And so it's like a triangle. And so if you can partner with people that want to do that, you really, I can see, because you want to have that. If you can make more on the same client, that increases your profitability and your referrals, your all that stuff, and you want to get them and you want to max out. And I find that you got to have you got to be willing to, you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. Like you got to have you got to have a more of a client for life mentality. And I find a lot of people are they want the money, or they don't have they're very transactional. So you got to kind of get them to slow down, to speed up. Have you found that when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I mean, I totally, I totally get that, and that's what's really important for us to understand is if you're looking to build wealth, how do you build wealth the best way? And for me, the reason I love real estate, a lot of people invest in the stock market, but I look at real estate and I'm all about wealth building, right? I was in ministry for many, many years and I made no money. Literally just over a decade ago, I was making so little money, but I loved what I did, with all the kids I had. I was trying to sell my blood to NIH to have money for Christmas presents, right?
Right.
Like that's where I was. And now I'm not there anymore. I'm on the opposite of that schedule. So the crazy thing is you look at real estate and why is it such a great option? So the government incentivizes you in so many ways, right? You can write off your depreciation. And if you're a full-time real estate professional, you can write it off against all your active income, which means you can, there's so many different ways that you can do that. But one of my favorite ones is a cost segregation analysis on any rental properties you have, where literally about a third of your down payment will get saved in that tax year by writing that off. Or you're, in your primary residence, you're able to write off. If you go to bankrate.com, mortgage interest deduction calculator, you'll see how much money you save by writing off your interest by owning it. You also have forced savings where your tenants will pay down your mortgage, increasing your net worth over time. You also see the appreciation of a property. You also see the fact that the government makes it easier for you to buy real estate because they back the loans, so they're cheaper Like you could get loans to invest in the stock market if you want, but the government makes it easy to buy property for that. And so literally if, let's say the stock market average goes up 10%, you invest $1,000 or $10,000 and it goes up 10%, you make $1,000. In real estate, you take $10,000, you leverage it and you invest for $100,000 and it goes up 10% and you make 10 grand, right?
Yeah.
So you see that leveraged appreciation, real estate helps in so many ways. And then there's so many other tax savings. One of my favorite books is called Tax-Free Wealth. And you see that you save so much money in taxes by owning real estate. So even if you're not very smart, right? You just buy real estate and you take all the write-offs, you can save maybe 25% on any asset that you own, and so all of a sudden you are no longer, you don't have to be that smart because you don't have to make as much money if you keep a whole heck of a lot more because of how you save in taxes. Real estate's just a big no-brainer for me. I think.
No, I mean, look, you preach to the choir here. I mean, our theme is wealth without Wall Street, right? Let's talk about. I want to do a little bit on the growing your a sales team, but I want to talk about a little bit about as you put it, cracking the code on the real estate agent investor partnership. And how that works or how that can work. Let's talk about that a little bit.
If you're doing any marketing, here's the thing. People raise their hand and say, yes, I want to talk to somebody that you'll give me a cash offer. And why do they do that? Because they want certainty, right?
Right.
You read Jordan Belfort in his book, The Wolf of Wall Street, or The Way of the Wolf, I guess is his book. It's his whole idea with his straight line selling is that if people want certainty, right? And so if you can close that certainty scale, you can sell, anybody. And so that's that whole idea is a cash offer. Well, when they respond to an investor, they want a cash offer, they want certainty. And so if the number is too high for an investor, they're able to kick it over to a real estate agent, but only if that agent is able to offer certainty. Because if you say, hey, do you want to talk to a real estate agent? They're going to say no, because their brother's uncle's a real estate agent. And if the whole process that we teach in REI Revive is that you have to follow a process. You have to follow a system, right? And I feel like this more than any other, I've got lots of friends that teach a lot about real estate investing, but I feel like this process more than any other will either have massive success if you follow the process or massive failure if you deviate. And that's the problem with entrepreneurs is that we're all creative, right? And so we try to reinvent the mousetrap, but we don't realize like somebody's already tried it 50 times and that's why it failed.
Right. That's so funny. Yeah. And so, that's really interesting. So it's like, how do you, if you're doing all this stuff, if you're doing marketing, you want to get paid on mostly everything you do. And so it's just a matter of thinking about, all right, I've got this and I'm going to wholesale this, or I'm going to keep this. And all right, I can't get it at my price. Let me give it to somebody else and just set it in the market. So you really can make money off of everything that comes into, not everything, but mostly everything that comes into your world. That's kind of what you mean, right? But you got to find a good partner that you got to vet out that you can work that with.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. If you don't find the right real estate agent partner, you can't just get a buddy or a friend or whatever. It's got to be somebody who's really good. This person is going to absolutely dictate your financial future, right? Because if you can pay whatever it is, let's say you spend $5,000 a month in marketing, right? And if this person can go out there and bring in $5,000 a month from leads that are just going to be dead, so that anything you make is yours to keep, that is going to be a game changer for you, right? You're going to literally be able to continue to grow your business. And that's the whole idea of scaling a business is your business has to earn the right to build out the org chart, right? You lead with revenue, you don't lead with expense. So you have this way of paying for all of your expenses so that then you can grow your business and scale your business.
Exactly. Okay. That's fantastic. So let's talk about, because the way I'm going to ask is, I think it'll apply to other people. So the mindset to $1 million. So one of the things you talk about is how to grow to $100 million real estate sales team in less than 5 years. But just in hearing that, you could apply it to your mortgage team, your insurance team, your whatever. I think there's a lot of similarities in that, but I'd like to hear how you think about that and how to do it, because that's fascinating to me, because that's another leverage point, which if you can, get, what's that saying? If you, J. Paul Gay, I'd rather have 1% effort off 100 people than 100% self effort. And so this is how you do that, because you can't sell 100 million, I'm assuming, by yourself with your pen. Maybe you can with your volume, but
well, absolutely. If you want to grow your business by 10% or even by 100%, you can work harder to do that. But if you want to grow your business by 10x, 100x, 50x, then you got to be smarter, right? You got to learn how to do it better. And so to really grow and scale an organization, the way you have to do it is by paying for and zero basing your marketing, and then spending the money that you make on things that are going to give you a 3, 5, 10x return. But literally, if you know that I could spend $1 and I keep $3 from it, I do that every day of the week, right? Yeah. Because then it's just a lever. It's just a dial where you just turn the dial. I can spend more money. Now I'm spending 1,000 a month and I'm bringing in 3, or now I'm spending 10,000 a month and I'm bringing in 30, or I'm spending 100,000 a month and I'm bringing in 300. And that's that whole idea of playing red light, green light, which I worry about saying that now in the era of Squid Games, but but that's that whole idea. You play red light, green light, you spend a little bit of money, and if you bring in the return, then you start spending more and spending more. And so that's where this vertical integration of being able to get paid from different sources allows you to have better margins.
So in that process, let's talk about the lead generation. Right. In building that, are you as the leader running the lead generation, or are you teaching your sales team to be you, like they're running individual lead generation, or a little bit of both, or neither?
Well, if you ever want to scale out a business, what you got to do is to scale a business. And I've got a number of books. I teach a little bit of business scaling stuff. But if you ever want to scale out a business, there's a book called Clockwork that I really, really love, written by the same guy that wrote Profit First. And one of the things I really like about it is you take a sticky notepad and you take 2 weeks and you just write down everything that you do. Like every time you do anything, return email, make this phone call, whatever it is, you write it down and then you just stick it to the wall. And after 2 weeks, you divvy it up and then you start breaking down your dollar per hour. So if you make, let's just use easy math. If we make $100, if you make $100,000 a year, then you make $50 an hour, right? You make $1 million a year, you make $500 an hour, and it just goes up or down from there. But so let's just say you make $100,000 a year and you just use easy math, $50 an hour. What you do is you look at that wall and you say, okay, what are things that are below my pay grade? And every time you take something off that is a $20 an hour job, you are then able to replace it with higher dollar per hour. And what happens is then you get a raise and you essentially level up, your organization levels up, and you get the things off your plate that are lower dollar per hour. And then you start focusing on higher dollar per hour activity, if that makes sense. So that's the best way to scale is you continually find things where you're doing, something that's below your pay grade, right, and you begin to hire and pass that off to other people so that you can continue to raise your pay grade and level up.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So you've got the business, got a sales team, real estate sales team that is doing well. Okay. And right. So is it doing well because you're generating the marketing and then they're servicing the lead flow that you generate?
Yeah. So it started off where I was just making all of the calls, right? Think about the business went from being a low performance vehicle to a high performance vehicle. So let's think about it like a tricycle, right? You're on a tricycle. This comes from Keith Cunningham. And if you want to make it move, you got to put massive effort into it. So I was making phone call after phone call personally, like doing all the phone calls, earning the right to build out the org chart, right? But then you moved. So that was the low performance vehicle. And as the business began to grow, now we're in a bigger, higher performance vehicle where, like, you think about a jet, right? You have dashboards all over. You move literally, I just move a throttle. I move little things and it makes it go really fast. It's very little effort on my part, but because we've created this engine, we've created this machine that's really big. And that's what you got to do. You start with low performance, which you can either spend money on leads, like I said, with realestateinvestor.com, or you can spend your time on leads, which, you can buy data, and I can put you in touch. There's a company called Deal Machine where you can buy data. And if you use the promo code Uncommon, they'll give you a bunch of free data. But they'll give you that where you can start making phone calls and trade your time for dollars. And then as you trade your time, you make more money. And as you make more money, you level up. And as you level up, you start paying people to do things that are different. And so I now have people that are making, I've got 3 full-time people that make phone calls for us all day and just set appointments for my sales team. I now no longer take appointments on my sales team. I hired people to take appointments for me. I now no longer am recruiting people. I hired a full-time recruiter, right? To do so every time I level up, I'm hiring somebody else to do things that I used to do.
Yes. Now, part of that, guys, as you listen to this, that was for me, because I'm kind of going through the same thing as I go into next year in building and scaling and, writing stuff. Because, I just brought an assistant on full time, and, she was part time, and she's really up my productivity. I was like, all right, what else can we do, that Curtis don't want to do, or that's below my pay grade, basically. And as you're hearing this, entrepreneurs, investors, you only have maybe 3 or 4 things you actually should be doing, right? And I'm sure, in Chris's coaching, they talk about that kind of stuff. And so you got to kind of figure out what are your high dollar payoffs. And I guess it starts with, the goal of business is to create a profit and to create wealth from that profit, right? And so I'm a big fan of profit first. I actually teach. I'm not like one of his people, but I do it, and I just show clients how to do it. I'm always recommending the book. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you feel that you want to get out that you'd like to share that I may have not asked you?
No, I think I dove into most of the stuff we were talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say this. I love what you said about the assistant. Everybody wants to reverse that and get people to cold call for them or do sales for them. But the reality is the thing you need to do most, and especially because most people that are entrepreneurs are not as organized, you need to get an assistant, right? Because if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is. So that's the first thing you should do. And honestly, my first assistant that I hired was a pretty low dollar person who was very, very smart, and very quickly as the organization grew, she grew as well. And now she's a very high dollar person.
Right.
But we're seeing a bunch of, I think we've got something like 16 or 17 people in our back office staff for some of our companies. And she oversees so many of these folks because of the fact that she leveled up with the company on that. So I'll also throw this out. If people are looking to scale a business, I've got a handful of books that I think every entrepreneur that's scaling should read. So I'll just throw these out. One is The E-Myth. I think it's a great book. It talks about the idea that, you need to not have a job, but you need to be a business owner. There's another book that's Who Not How by Dan Sullivan that is really, really important. And you don't need to know how to do everything. I literally don't know how to do most tech things at all, but I've got a tech guy that does it all, right?
Right.
You don't need to be excellent at anything except your genius zone. I've got 4 things that I see as my genius zone, and that's where I spend all my time. Right. And everything else I hire other people to do.
That book is like my theme for this year. Who Not How. Right?
Good.
Yeah. Keep going.
It's so good. Scrum, how to do twice the work in half the time. And it's that whole idea of putting little rocks in place that you get movement on. EOS Traction, which is a really, really, really powerful book talking about how to build out and scale and find what is the most massively important thing to move. Because let's be honest, all of our businesses, we could have 1,000 things that we could be working on, but how do you stay focused on the most important things?
Right.
The 12-week year.
Oh, yes.
So good.
That's my book. That is my operating system for my life. The 12-week year. That's, I almost, if I keep focused, I could be one of his trainers because I'm, that's what I do, so that's pretty cool. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. So those are some of those ones that everybody has to read if you want to scale a
Yes.
business. But the reality is, don't focus on scaling a business if you're not creating revenue. The first thing you got to do is create revenue. And by doing that, you just got to be a great salesperson. And you don't even have to be a great salesperson. You just need to talk to enough people, because you could be a terrible salesperson. And if you do enough activity, you're still going to produce, because you're going to act. The harder you work, the more accidentally you're going to fall into success.
Yes. And you can't help but get better if you're doing it and then you learn. The number one thing you have to learn in business is sales. I think the number two is marketing, but because marketing, if you don't know how to sell, you can get a lot of activity and not make any money because you don't know how to convert the leads into money. So your number one function is sales and marketing. And sales is, when you hear that, guys, don't get scared of sales. Sales is helping people make a future decision that is good for them. It is not convincing them, trying to talk them into buying stuff. And so if you can get out your own way, you can't make any money if you don't learn how to sell. Period. End of story. So Chris, this has been great. How can they what's the best way to get in touch with you? How, if they want to follow what you're doing, reach out to you, I know you have a program. Tell them a little about some of the things that you're doing for people.
Sure. So, I really loved early on in my career, I would reach out to people I really liked on their podcast. And so one of the things that I do is, at least at this point in my life, I respond to every Instagram message. So if there's ever anything I can do for you, or, you want to, talk through anything, I'm not talking about like a 45-minute phone call, but pop me an Instagram message, and I'm willing to chat with anybody there. So my Instagram handle, it's not my last name, but kind of like it. It's an old cheesy high school nickname, which I probably need to just change it, but I haven't yet. It's at Craddock, Craddrock. And I'll reply to any Instagram message that anybody sends. So that's one. Number two, if you are a real estate agent and an investor, I have a podcast, and the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts. I would love if you keep listening to this and just add me into one of your 7.
Right.
So it's called Uncommon Real Estate. And we talk to the agent who's also an investor. For my REI Revive program, if you're paying for leads or going after leads, or maybe just start the deal machine and do the uncommon piece, or the realestateinvestor.com. If you're going after leads and you want to monetize them, just go to my website, just chriscraddock.com. And, my team will check it out and make sure that your business is a good fit for the program, because, my whole thing is I just want people that are going to succeed in this, and I'm happy to add fuel to the fire and really, really help them win.
That is fantastic. So I'll definitely make sure we put all that in the show notes and in the books. Any closing thoughts? I want to make sure I want to get you get out wherever you want to get out. And from that, but you've dropped a lot of value in this call. So I really appreciate you having you on. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Well, yeah, if there's anything I can do for you or any of your listeners, please, like I said, I'll reply to anything on Instagram, and, want to help people. I still remember the first time when a guy, he was making millions in the retail space. And I saw him on stage, and I just reached out, and I couldn't believe it. He was willing to have a conversation with me online, and then it turned into a phone call, and then it turned into another phone call. And so I look at that and I'm like, man, people were so generous with me, like not just him, but so many people. And so now that I'm in that, that era, I want to be the same for other people.
Yeah. Listen, I had one of my favorite books on the strategy I teach, Becoming Your Own Banker. He had his number on the book, and I called him. I was like, listen, I love your book. This is my favorite book on the topic. And we've basically been corresponding for the last 10, 12 years, where he's been on the show a couple of times, Jeffrey Reeves, and I happen to be in Denver going to Aspen to go skiing. I think he lives near there. And then we ended up having lunch, and he got up, went to the bathroom. I bought him lunch. He's like, oh, you didn't have to do that. I says, dude, yes, I did. So, you know what I mean? Yes, I did. And so I was able to, to really, he's brought a lot of value to me indirectly, just on the information that he gave. So if you can reach out, because we always say investing is not about buying something, it's about becoming something. So find somebody that knows how to do. Don't just go with your hand out all the time. Figure out how to bring value to them. Or if they tell you to do something, then you better damn well do it. Okay. And if I give you a book to read, if you don't read it, don't call me back, because I'm annoyed now, because you're asking me this stuff, but you won't do your homework. And you know what I mean? I know you feel the same way, right? So Chris, thanks for being on the Practical Wealth Show. This was fantastic. Guys, go out there. We're going to put his information in the show notes. So if he says something that resonated with you, check out his podcast. I know a lot of y'all are listening, you're with EXP, you're realtors, you're trying to invest. I think what he's talking about, something y'all need to hear. I was just thinking, when we'll talk about it when we start recording it, we could do a mastermind call just for that group. So I think I could put a group of those people together on a Zoom or something like that. So I was just thinking about that while you were talking.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Are you a licensed agent?
I'm not, but I have been thinking about it.
Well, I'll tell you. So, I am with EXP. We just jumped over. We were one of the top Keller Williams agents in the world, and EXP actually changed their rules on wholesaling to get our team to come over. And so now they allow wholesaling. They allow a lot of investment stuff that they didn't in the past. And so there's a number of folks, like a lot of real estate investor influencers, that are all either getting licensed or moving their license.
I saw that. I was in Clubhouse. I saw, what's her name? Grant Cardone's wife. And it looks like Grant is in it, Yeah, it's interesting. I know a few people. Because I was going to coach some cash flow management on financial management for business owners, and just, so I like that market, in terms of helping them become more successful. But I believe in verticals, and if I can get, I don't want to do any of it, but if it's compliant way for me to get paid, let's have had it. So I've been thinking about that the last couple of months or so. It's just a test. So I mean, it's like, listen, pass, fail test. I've never failed one. Go to a study course, go take a test, so
100%. Yeah. Because of some of the stuff that EXP is doing, I've got a bunch of people that are coming in our little community, our tribe. A lot of names that they're moving over in the next couple of weeks, but right. A lot of names that are household names that people know, that are all jumping in, where we can add value to each other.
That's very interesting.
If anybody's licensed or thinking about jumping over, like, I'd love to have the EXP conversation.
Reach out. And because there's a lot of stuff, because you can be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And, there's some other things, and you've got people that are really good marketers like Chris that are there. So, all right, guys, listen, we're going to call this a wrap. So we'll put all this stuff in the show notes. Y'all reach out, and thanks for listening to another great episode of the Practical Wealth Show.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before